The series that has everyone talking. In-depth interviews. Candid conversation. An hour of honesty and entertainment. It's time to exhale.
Hello and welcome to Exhale, the show where nothing, and I do mean nothing, is off limits. I'm Renee Seiler, and these phenomenal women are Angela Burke-Murray, Erin Jackson, Issa Rae, and Melinda Williams. We're going to cover the issues that really matter to Black women. Family, relationships, faith, money. Joining us today will be actress Tashina Arnold, judge and host of Divorce Court, Lynn Tolmer, celebrity matchmaker, author and owner of the Sean McKenzie Agency, Jason Diaz, and author, life coach, and CEO of Volition Enterprises, Dr. Nicole LaBeach. Today, we're going to cover everything from dating to marriage to divorce. Hey, ladies, how you doing?
Good.
All right, we know there are all kinds of relationships, good, bad, the ugly. What's the worst relationship you've ever been in?
I had a guy who ended a relationship by changing his status on Facebook.
With you?
No, hold it in. Hold it in.
Right.
Hold it in. Really? Really good enough, mother?
It is so not funny.
This side of
It
the
is
sofa,
not
this
funny.
side, we feel for you.
Well, tell them.
That's not funny.
What about you guys?
I mean, I've had a guy who like just hacked my emails and then would so he would be privy to my conversations and he would be throwing things at me in our relationship and I'd be like, how does he know that? And so I would kind of like think I was crazy because I was like, did I tell him? Because I don't remember telling him. And then one day he said something to me that I was like, okay, wait a minute, I know I only said that in an email to one person, so is this too? And so then I confronted him, and he admitted, and I was like, okay, that's creepy.
That's right.
But I've been someone's bad relationship then, because I'm definitely been guilty of that. I did it for reasons because if you leave it open on my computer, then
No, I'm not talking about open on the computer. Oh, I'm just going to conveniently read it. I'm talking about hacking. Nope, that's not the password. Nope, that's not the password. Ha! That's the password. And then reading all my emails like that.
When I was young, probably in my 20s, I dated a guy who was the classic bad boy. And he was a smoker and I was an athlete. And I mean, but he was so bad that he was good, you know? And I remember one time we got in an argument and I put him out of my car. Yes, I was driving. And he kicked the side of my car and dented it. And I thought to myself, if he would do that to my car, he might do that to me. And that was the end.
Can I just say something? In my past, I would never have looked at that as a red flag. But I now know that if a guy or somebody just arbitrarily kicks something or punches a wall or, you know, that is a sign that he could potentially not know how to control his or her anger and eventually take it out on you. Yeah.
What about
So
friendships?
you guys have never
Oh, that was so long ago. Oh my gosh, I married my husband.
Not a person, I'm saying you've never done that.
because Angela has.
Wait, Angela, you kick things?
Am I the only one?
Angela is a quiet storm, y'all.
Wait, what's she saying? Have we
Some
ever?
of us have never kicked anything.
She's like, you never? No. You don't just pick.
Just me.
Have you ever?
So I'm the only one. Okay, I'm just want to
That's
be
a
clear.
good question. Has any of you lost your temper in a relationship and damaged property? Or here's a better question: has any of you looked into your significant other's texts?
Lisa, don't answer.
I didn't look through the text. I'm saying if that's a past thing.
Or
that was for a
email.
good reason.
You're better. You're
Wow.
But I would never just pick up the
Okay,
phone and look
how
at
would you feel if he did it to you? Would you be okay with it?
Okay.
Really?
Yeah, I mean, my husband knows. I'm like Glenn Close jealous. Like,
Wow, wow. I hope you guys eat with plastic cutlery.
Wait.
Can you elaborate?
It's always a quiet one.
Yeah, right.
Right, property?
down.
Don't try to
Yeah.
scoop your way out of this.
My mouth is full. No.
but see, I'm honest about my crazy. You guys all sitting up here like, oh, that
We're just asking you to elaborate.
I don't kick
Are you
things.
kidding me?
I don't kick things.
I'm not saying you don't kick things.
I'm
but
crazy,
I don't think
but I've
we're-
never-
Thank you.
I'm not Glenn Close crazy.
Me guys, can we shift real quickly, because I want to talk about toxic friendships. We're talking about dating relationships, but how do you know when a relationship with a friend is so bad that it cannot be saved and you have to get out to save yourself?
I've not really had an end to a relationship. One girlfriend I had an issue with, after some time, started talking again, and we've rebuilt our friendship, and she's one of my closest friends.
Yeah. I've had friends who I feel like were sort of on this endless hamster wheel, in a sense. Like, we're all trying to progress and we're trying to grow, and that's what everybody ultimately wants in life, growth. And I feel like, you don't abandon your friends. You're there for them no matter what. But when they keep repeating the same problems, even though you're trying to help them and everyone else, all of our other friends are progressing and moving forward, and they can't seem to handle the issues or the problems that they're dealing with. It's one of the toughest things in the world to do, but at some point you kind of have to leave that behind. You don't lose love for that person. You grow out of them.
I had a single black female situation.
What is your deal, Angela?
I just attract crazy. I think it's like there was this girl who, she cut her hair like mine. Wow. She was just would follow me wherever I would go. There she was. She always wanted to know about my relationship with my husband. Do you guys fight? What? Just all in my business. And just you'd be somewhere and then you turn around and you see her staring at you, and you're like,
gosh.
Yeah, it was
creepy.
So how did you cut her off?
Yeah.
Did you literally cut her?
Yeah.
A restraining order.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
Just went down to the police station. But no, I just, stopped, letting her know where we were going.
Yeah.
And she was a little weird with the rest of my circle, too, who thought she was kind of a freak. So, we just kind of all...
And it just eventually went away.
All
right, more stories to come, surely. In a moment, Issa, Angela, and I are going to dig a little deeper into relationships with Dr. Nicole LaBeach. So get ready, because this is where we let it all out and exhale.
We're back with Dr. Nicole LaBeach.
Nicole, you're a life coach, you're a relationship expert, and one of the things that we hear a lot of people talk about is that the majority of black women are single. Is that true? And if it is true, why?
A lot of us are single. Some of us are single based on getting divorced, having been married, and some of us are single because of what a lot of people are talking about now from the standpoint of us being successful, really successful, educated, and whether or not the conventional, traditional family is what we're looking for, which would be the house, the picket fence, the husband, and 2.5 kids. So it's just a different time for many of us.
Are you saying that that's a repellent?
Or that we're single by choice?
No, I think a lot of us are making different choices. We're looking at what is working for us. And in that, some of us, the traditional setup is not what we're looking for. We're really trying to put ourselves on the list now and say, what's a relationship that's going to work for me, that's going to really celebrate the core of who I am as a person and all of my roles, wife, mother, sister, daughter, all of that together. So it's a different season for us.
I sit around and talk with my girlfriends all the time. Whenever they visit, it's always about the dating pool out there. And I have this theory that currently, black women and Asian men are literally at the bottom of the dating totem pole. Nobody wants us. And what do you attribute that to? I mean, honestly, no one's fighting to get a black woman because there's a certain perception of who we are and how we are. And I've heard that so many times. I've heard so many of my black male friends dismiss us because we're just too hard to deal with. We're not as, we're not as easy. We're just too difficult.
Well, I'm glad that you said perception, because we are getting a really bad rap right now. When we have all of these images now, when you look at reality TV and stuff like that, that's telling you she's smart, she's difficult. Okay? She has her own company, she can't work with you. She's controlling, she's difficult. But if she's dependent on you, she's a gold digger, but it'll be a good catch. It's like all of these crazy images that really are not speaking to who we are, who we really are.
So do you find that black women are more open-minded in terms of their choices now, in a sense?
I do think so, because, when we look at tradition, a lot of it was really about a more dependent type of scenario when you looked at finances, things of that nature. And now, with a lot of women being in the workforce, there are a lot of other questions that they're starting to ask. And again, it's not about the codependence and being enmeshed with a person where you don't know where you end and where they begin. So for a lot of Black women, the question is becoming, well, what is really going to work for me? And what's going to make me feel centered and present and feel like I'm in a relationship that's not only good for me, but good to me, and vice versa.
But how do people develop, positive and healthy relationships? I think some of the things that we've talked about is, obviously relationships change over time, and, sometimes people hit a rough patch and they're like, oh, I'm done with this.
That's right.
But, any relationship takes a lot of hard work.
Absolutely. Well, the first thing is to know that it takes work. There's this thing going on now where people are like, if I got to work in my relationship, I don't want to have to come home and work. And it's like, okay, well, then you don't want a relationship.
Right. Several years ago, my husband and I were at a point where we needed to make some decisions.
Sure.
And in order to move forward, we weren't going to be able to have that conversation just between the two of us. But it was really hard because my husband said, I don't believe in therapy. I don't believe that this will be helpful. I just don't believe in it. But ultimately, we did end up going, and it helped tremendously. But how can women get their partners, Black men in particular, to go to therapy?
I think the biggest thing is, are you making the decision that you want the relationship?
Right.
And have you decided, look, do you have anything in your box that we haven't used? Because I put all of mine on the table. Everything I have, I've given, and this is still the elephant in the room. Then it's about, well, if we want this, we've got to try something else.
So you can get beyond the rusty fork.
Yes, no rusty forks, no bats, none of that.
Easy, girl, easy. I think we have a skewed view of relationships because of what we see in the movies and we read in books and magazines, and they get together and the music swells as they walk down the aisle, and then we don't see anything else. We don't see that dig in deep part. She's married 18 years, I'm married 19 years. The last 2 years I thought if I had enough money I would leave. But I didn't, so I didn't. We stuck it out and we're still together. That's what a real marriage looks like, and I don't think people see that. How do we change that view?
Well, we're having a hard time right now because a lot of the images that we're seeing are of these instant, quick-made relationships with, quite frankly, people that aren't ready for a relationship. So part of the challenge is be in a relationship with somebody that wants a relationship.
Does that make sense?
How about we start?
Done in a way.
But how about start there? Because if they want a relationship, they may not know how to do it, but at least you're starting at the point of, okay, we both want the same thing. You don't have to see everything the same way, but the core of what you feel are important, is it important to them? Do they have good boundaries? If they don't have good boundaries and they're rule breakers, I'm not talking about somebody that's adventurous, likes to take a risk. I'm talking about things that at the end of the day will come back and say, I didn't set up for this, lane violations, okay?
Like what?
If you're with someone that's the telltale signs of, shouldn't probably be planning long term with them. They're overly jealous. They want to isolate you from your family. I want to be everything to you. So you like going to the gym? I don't want you to go to the gym anymore. We need to be together all the time. And you're seeing some of this stuff in dating. You might want to make a different decision about whether or not to take this casual dating scenario into a long-term relationship, because those things escalate. Sometimes they escalate into abuse, but they definitely escalate into, I don't want this, and I definitely don't want this forever.
Quick question.
Sure.
3 tips. If you are going through troubled times, like we've all been through in our relationships, what are 3 things that we can do to help us get over those if we decide the relationship is worth keeping?
Turn towards the person, not away from them. I mean, friends are great. My girlfriends, I will tell you, I don't know what I'd be without them. But when you're in a relationship with someone and it's tough, you gotta turn to them. Don't turn to everybody else. Work it out. It's kind of like the difference between going this way or holding on to their hands and saying, all right, this is tough, but we can make it. The other thing is, don't forget why you got into it. Anything you can do to get back there, the pictures, the memories, and commit to new memories. And forgive. It's tough. But you gotta at some point say, you know what, man? I believe this is worth fighting for, and I'm willing to work to release the anger so that we can create new memories together. And I can forgive you so we can move forward.
I think those are great tips and very valuable. I think I would also add to that, you have to be willing to be accountable yourself and not just point the finger at the other person.
Defensiveness is one of the telltale signs of you might not make it.
Wow.
If you're
You need to fix
overly
yourself.
critical, you know, you are critical to the nine, you are defensive, it's never my fault. It's always what you did.
You really have to be realistic. You
Absolutely.
gotta fight for what you want. Thank you so, so much.
This has been great. Thank you so much for having me.
Thank you.
You're awesome.
Thanks for your insight.
Join the conversation on Twitter, #ExhaleTV. In a moment, Judge Lynn Toll will sit down with Melinda to talk about the D word, divorce.
The interesting thing, I think, is that divorce court helped save my marriage at a time when it was in trouble and the D word was bounced off every wall in my house.
We're back with Judge Lynn Toller.
So, Judge Lynn, it is a pleasure to have you here. I'm a big fan.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
Yes, you were the presiding judge over the TV show Divorce Court, which I watch.
Great. For the last 7 years.
So, you definitely know a thing or two about marriages that have ended.
I know a whole lot about marriages
You know a
that end
whole lot.
all day long.
I know a little something myself. I've had two.
Tattoo of your own.
I've had two of
Okay.
my own, unfortunately, that have ended. So I've got lots of questions.
Okay.
The first thing I want to know is, why do you think that divorce is so pervasive in our society today? What do you think is causing that?
You got a lot of things going on at the same time. It's you have the equalization of men and women. At one point, your position in society as a woman was determined about whether or not you are married.
Okay.
That is no longer the case. We are now economically able and independent and legally independent. Also, we have a more immediate gratification society where you don't have to wait long for anything. If you have to wait 3 seconds for your Google search to come up, you're angry about it. So we do have a sense that we should be happy right now. In marriage, there's a whole lot of not happy right now. Sometimes right now is a year and a half of not happy. And that's really hard to put your arms around if you're used to getting what you want, when you want. And then the stigma's gone. It's not a big deal anymore. Divorce is not, it's not the horrible thing that it used to be. It is a horrible thing when you're going through it, but society does not judge it as a failure because 50% of the people are going through it.
As a person who has gone through certain things publicly, that's one of the questions that I get asked, and it's something that I've had to deal with on a personal level, because the word failure was almost always associated with divorce when I would be asked the question. So, you've had 2 failed marriages, or we want to talk about your failed marriage. It was always the word failure, and so I had to find a way to figure out how I was not a failure, because I didn't feel like a failure.
Absolutely. It's a decision that you have to make as to whether or not that union is going to work. And it is not a failure. It is a decision. It is a change. Oftentimes it is a relief. But in a society where we now have choices, we have to respect those choices and lose the old labels that we used to have for them.
Are you married?
I've been married for 24 years.
Having been married for 24 years yourself, you've never been in the courtroom and felt something. I mean, do you keep it strictly judicial, or do you sometimes inject your opinion as being a married woman with experience?
I don't think I could help it but inject my personal experience. And I try to do it in a way that is not gender specific, because women and men look at things very differently.
Sure.
And I really try to put myself in both the male and female shoes. The interesting thing, I think, is that divorce court helped save my marriage at a time when it was in trouble and the D word was being, bounced off every wall in my house. and I couldn't figure out what was wrong until I saw it in a pattern in front of the people that I saw, and I said, uh-oh, that's what's happening in my house. And then I fixed it. It took a year and a half, but I fixed it.
Can you share with us what that pattern was?
The pattern was what I call a whittled away woman. And what a whittled away woman is a woman who pays for peace with her voice. And no one would think it would happen to me. Here I am putting people in jail. I'm in charge. I ran a campaign. I ran an office of 30 people. I'm on television. And I went home to a place where I felt that was the place I felt least valued. And I couldn't figure out how that happened. It was a very, very slow trip to stupid, but I finally got there. And I realized what happened was I grew up in a house where my father was mentally ill. So my mother didn't wash the dishes correctly, and we could all be running for our lives. So all I wanted from marriage was peace. And my husband would have a regular disagreement with me, but I couldn't tolerate it because, it could go bad. So his everyday angry got him immediate compliance. So over the years, as you continue to do that, you teach him he's always supposed to get his way, and I taught myself that I'm always wrong. And it was funny, I was explaining to a woman what was happening to her, and I was thinking, oh my God, that's what happened to me.
Do you think nowadays it's almost just more convenient for people to get divorced, whereas back in the day, like our parents didn't necessarily have the same options that we have today, and that plays a part into...
Oh, absolutely. Now, all the states, New York was the last one, but they're all no fault. So we have the ability to get a divorce. It's all a matter now of dividing up the assets and the debts at the end of the day.
Dividing the assets.
Which is not a small
The
matter.
pain of my existence.
That's never a small matter.
It's never a small matter, and that's a lot of times where it gets really ugly.
Really ugly, the children and the assets. I mean, when you have children involved, that's an anger that never goes away sometimes because you're in constant contact with that other person that you truly wanted to get rid of, and you are never able to do that. And then the assets, it's so emotionally taxing. If you're the one who made it and the other person wasn't helpful, but the law doesn't really seem to care.
See, that's the thing. A lot of people think it's about men. People think the men the men get dragged through. It's about who has it.
Who has it.
Absolutely.
And who made it, and to what extent the other person was a part of that. Now, back in the day, when women would put their husbands through medical school and held down the house, that separation seemed more equitable because she allowed him and assisted him in becoming the economic, provider. But these days, that's not necessarily the case.
But how do you feel about prenups?
Nobody expects their house to burn down. Nobody plans for their house to burn down. Most people's houses don't burn down, but we all have insurance. And that's how I see it. That none of the 50% of the people went into it and saying anything other than he's my soulmate and I love him. It has nothing to do with the level, the gravity, the depth of your love. It has to do with the world is what it is, and things happen. So if you have insurance on your house and your car and everything else, if you're soulmates, you'll never need it.
Get you some insurance on the marriage.
But if you get some insurance on the marriage, just so everybody knows what's gonna happen if it doesn't quite work out.
I love it.
Right?
I love it. Yeah, I'm all over it. Next time, maybe.
Yeah, there you go.
Judge Lynn, thank you so much for being here. I mean, I could sit here and talk to you for another few hours. There's just so much we could discuss.
I loved it.
Yeah.
Had a ball.
Later in the show, Erin and I learned how to find the perfect match. But next, Tashina Arnold.
There has to be give and take. When she can't give, that means I have to give more. We're back with Tashina Arnold.
Welcome, Tashina.
Hello, thank you for having me.
Hey.
Now, you've played a lot of roles on TV. One of the ones you're best known for is the mom Rochelle on Everybody Hates Chris. As a mother and wife in real life, how close to your life was that role?
You know, when I booked Everybody Hates Chris, my daughter was only 2 at the time, so I was a mother, but I didn't have a whole lot of experience being a mother. So I kind of took, well, I took my mother, my grandmother, and my aunt, the 3 matriarchs in my life, and I rolled them up into one character. I just kind of remembered all the things that happened in my childhood, and it just so happened that we had such great scripts on Everybody Hates Chris that I just kind of brought it to life being those 3 women at one time.
Well, you have a great memory because you played those roles. Like, I could see my auntie, myself, and my mother in that role that you played. When you're living your life in a fishbowl, sometimes people tend to be very critical of you, particularly when it comes to your relationships. How do you deal with that?
My current husband is amazing. His name is Rico Hines.
Hey, Rico Hines.
Hey, Rico. Hey, Boo Boo. I call him Big Daddy.
Okay. Well, we didn't even know all that.
Yeah, no, Big Daddy's good. I told my husband from the jump, the red carpet, that's my job. So he understood because he didn't like show business. He was like, you know, I hate show business. I'm like, you better learn to show business, love show business, because it's gonna pay us. Yeah. You know, but he's in a completely different industry. He's, you know, a basketball coach.
Okay.
And, you know, I that's another area I stayed away from. I'm like, I don't want no basketball player, no football player, no You always say what you don't want, and that's exactly what you get.
Right. Sure.
But in understanding that, baby, I'm gonna have to, and you know, because I had a failed marriage before, I knew exactly what to tell him that will happen in our relationship and what to expect. So I said, baby, I may have to go to social events. It's not that I'm out partying. These are the people that I have to be around in order for me to get my next paycheck. So you break it down. When you break it down, you kind of make it understandable for your mate. It makes it a lot easier. We're doing great. You know, we've had some obstacles. You know, that first year of marriage was, we just had an argument yesterday, actually. And I was like, you know, I'm about to do a show about relationships, right? You don't want to piss me off. And we laughed about it. And that is the key. I said, baby, as long as I laugh at least 3 times a week.
But do you make him laugh a lot?
Of course.
I'm sure you do.
I make him laugh all the time. You have to. You know, it's like, you know, that's how I got into show business. When before my mother, she would want to spank me. I know she would want to tear my behind up. And I'll just, like, take my underwear and pull, like, give myself a wedgie and walk around dancing around her. And that's what get me out.
That would get me out. Completely disarm her.
My daughter does the same thing.
So when we talk about relationships, not just love and romantic relationships, what are your relationships like with your siblings?
Oh gosh, I have a sister. She's 3 years younger than me. So what, Zanae? Shut up. I think also being in the industry, you have to have a great support system, and my sister is a great support system for me. We just had a conversation in the car on the way over here about relationships and friendships, and my sister she's made me stronger in the sense because she has 7 diseases, and 5 of them are autoimmune diseases, but the last one she was diagnosed with is lupus. And lupus has affected so many African American women and men, and Latino women as well. But it's really, 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 you know, prevalent amongst the Black community. And we just, you know, she's made me strong in a sense to watch this woman have 7 diseases, run my business. She's still a paralegal, so she still works, you know, damn near 16 hours a day sometimes. So to see her strength and her tenacity.
And I'm watching you and your sister and the dynamic that the 2 of you have together. You kind of support each other in some spoken and unspoken ways. How have you found, you know, with her diagnoses, how have you found just those little things that you have to be there for it?
You know, it was just a wake-up call for me because Zanae is such a strong individual, you know, and sometimes you forget that, you know, I forget. I'm like, damn, she has 7 diseases. So I move fast, and when I see her starting to move slow, it's like, okay, well, let's slow it down. Let's, you know, but she's like, no, don't tell people. Don't, you know, let me just get through it because she doesn't like people to know if she's down. And I'm like, Zanae, I said, you know what? God knew what he was doing, because if I had the disease, I'd be like, I ain't coming in. I'm not working. I'm not doing anything. So I think her having these diseases has made her stronger, and in her becoming stronger, it's made me stronger. So you thrive off each other like you do in regular relationships. It has to be give and take. When she can't give, that means I have to give more. When I can't give, that means she gives more. She told me years ago, she was like, yeah, I want to, start helping you run your business. I was like, no. And she's like, why? I'm like, you're not ready. There are wolves, honey. I said, these wolves will eat you alive in show business. We're in the industry of no.
Yeah.
What are you told every day? Every time we go on.
I'm good at no now. I'm very good at no.
Totally.
I got something for no.
And I used to be no, because I will say this, when I first started out, I'm a comedian. When I started out in that industry, in that industry, woo! My response to no in the beginning was, all right then. That's how I naturally would respond to it. But now it's like, so how about now?
My sister sees, she's like, I never would have been able to handle it then.
I work with my sister also.
Oh,
she's
wonderful.
Behind the scenes. She's a publicist. And
Nice.
I'm in front of the camera.
That's
we complement
right.
each other
For the
well.
longest time, I didn't know you were sisters. I felt so stupid. I was like, it's a good thing I didn't talk about the window. You don't put family on payroll too quick.
I agree with that.
I told, even when it's in there, I was like, okay, you got to earn the right to get a percentage. So when I know that you, and that's exactly what we did. But when you put family on salary, they're going to stop telling you the truth.
Yeah.
My sister tells me the truth all the time.
Oh, absolutely.
All the time.
Yeah, well, I don't pay my sister, so she has no...
Oh, well, lucky. Melinda doesn't pay her sister. What the hell is up with that?
Trust me, she charges me, but in other ways. I just don't pay her
you
money.
gonna pay?
Oh, yeah, she takes it out on
Pay
me.
today.
Exactly.
Well, Tashina, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
I really enjoyed you.
Thank you.
When we come back, celebrity matchmaker Jasmine Diaz tells Melinda and I her secrets for finding love.
So where are the men you brought for us to meet?
Girl, they're in my car.
Can you go get them?
Bachelor number 1.
We're back with Jasmine Diaz.
So Jasmine, you're the founder of Shaw McKenzie Agency, and you definitely know a lot about matchmaking. Where should two single ladies like Melinda and I go to find a man?
Well, I would say this. It really depends on what kind of man you're looking for. Do you want a professional guy? Do you like the athletic type? Do you like ball players? What's your type?
Well, we know not broke.
Okay.
We know that. We don't want broke.
I like creative guys.
Okay.
Yes, it would help if they were chocolate.
Okay. Chocolate creatives, and you. Okay.
That's the Jersey in both of us.
Okay.
Chocolate. Now, how do you know when two people are a good match?
Wow, that is a really interesting question to me, because I think that it's really hard to determine on the surface level whether two people are a really good fit. I think that people like Mariah Carey and her current husband, Nick Cannon, is a really awesome example of a couple that you wouldn't typically think would be a good match. But without knowing them and knowing their story and spending time with them, it would be difficult to determine if they're a good fit. So I don't typically like to say offhandedly, okay, these two people aren't a good match, but there are some signs. I think you can tell, how they communicate with each other as a couple, whether or not they seem to be happy or perhaps connected to one another. I think that's a really important element to a successful relationship. So if it seems like it's disconnected, it probably is.
So what prompted you to start Shaw McKenzie Agency?
I started the Shaw McKenzie Agency back in 2009. I've been working with Black professionals, executive types, as well as a small group of celebrities, and it's a business that I'm most proud of because I feel like I'm showing people that they can have the dream.
And so do you work with people that are just physically meeting each other? Do you advise people on online profiles?
Do you plan their weddings?
Well, we do a little bit of everything, I would say. I'm there from inception. Some people come to me because they want to work with a matchmaker to find love for marriage. Some people just want to get out of their dating rut and maybe just meet people casually. So that will really dictate whether or not they're working with me long-term versus short-term. When you come into my office and you say, look, I need a good guy or I need a good girl. And so my job is to sit down with them and to evaluate what they're looking for. And then we work together to try and connect you to someone who is that person. So from there, we plan dates, we set you up, and hopefully if it's a match, then I can be involved with planning engagements and weddings.
Is it different making matches for celebrities than it is for your average, Black professional?
I would say that it is different, and here's why. Because I think that celebrities and professionals, they have similarities, but they're looking for two different types of things, and they have different sets of requirements. But a high profile or a celebrity client, of course, there's other considerations that have to be made. Being in the public eye is a really important thing or a problem for some people. And so having to assess whether you're with someone because they want you for your fame and your fortune and your lifestyle, that's something that that person has to consider that another person does not. So working with them and matching them tends to be a little bit more difficult because the selection process has to be more rigid and specific. And even with my celebrity clients, I can't often tell people that they're a celebrity.
Do your celebrity clients tend to request to be set up with celebrities or not?
You know, it really depends. I've noticed that some people want normal life.
Yeah.
You know, they want the normal experience. Do you want
I don't have a normal life, so and yes, I do want a normal life.
Yeah, you know, I think most of those people would prefer not to date people in the industry.
Would you prefer to date a celebrity or just some working guy?
Well, I quite honestly prefer to date a good man. However, I would love to date a celebrity only because a celebrity, I feel like they get it. They get my lifestyle. They get, you know, they understand. Some days, you know, I'm not going to work for 3 months in a row, and they're not going to come home and look at me crazy.
Right.
However, a regular person, I would love to date a normal, as they say, person, but if they got it, if they understood.
Right. And I
the
think that's the
lifestyle
challenge for someone like you who is a celebrity and why they often seek relationships in the industry because of that they know what I'm going through element.
Yeah.
And so, but with that being said, there brings a whole nother set of challenges with that person that knows what you're going through.
Sure.
They have scheduling issues.
Absolutely, exactly.
And so there's this life that happens as part of the celebrity brand that you are, and it's hard to merge those two lives. So I think that some people who are celebs, they do opt to try as best as they can to find someone who is normal, so to speak. But how it differs from like the executive type of person, obviously they don't have some of those challenges. They have other challenges like time. If they're committed to their jobs and they're a slave to the workplace, so to speak, then of course they are going to have challenges.
So what are some of the steps that can be taken to find, that you take to find, match people together?
Well, one of the steps I usually take, and a step that I would share with you lovely single ladies, is that one, you need to set your priorities, because I think that's a problem for a lot of people. They think they want to be in a relationship, but the relationship isn't really so much of a priority. Second step, I would say that you need to utilize the tools that are a part of your trade. And for most people, that's your calendar. So if you have a calendar, you want to set aside time to date, because that's the most important thing. Whether you're a celebrity or an executive, if you don't find time within your life to meet somebody, then obviously you're not going to meet anyone. The third step I would say is just to go into the situation with an open heart. And I know that kind of sounds the same as being open in some ways, but I think this is an important place that a lot of people miss, is that you need to be emotionally available, you need to be financially available for some people, mentally available, and that's an important thing when you're dating. And the last thing is just have fun. I think dating is supposed to be fun.
Okay.
So where are the men you brought for us to meet?
Girl, they're in my car.
Can you go get them?
Bachelor number one.
Just kidding.
Well, thank you, Jasmine, so much for being here. We're going to talk offset about this further.
Yes.
I am ready now. So, fellas, look out.
Watch out now.
Continue the conversation at Facebook/XLTV and let us know what you think about today's topic.
The ladies are back with the wrap.
Angela, I'm really shocked by what you were saying about what your girlfriends say about the dating pool, about black women and Asian men. Is that just your girlfriends, or is that something you see out in the internet people are talking about? Or?
I see it everywhere, honestly. I think that a lot of black women are just struggling with, one, trying to figure out like where they stand in terms of, you know, people's desire for them, and then two, a lot of them are afraid to date. I'm like waiting for their black prince, and they're afraid to venture out. And like, to me, I don't know, it's kind of, it's weird. I encourage them to date outside their race, because it's like you don't have to wait for anybody. They're not waiting for us, so why are you gonna sit up there and wait for them? And like, I know it's a funny double standard to me, because sometimes my girlfriends and I will see like a black guy with a white girl and be like, okay, whatever, you did that. When we see like a black woman with a white man, we're like, go sister girl, you got that. Because we know that she tried. She tried her hardest here with the black man, and that's what, she's ventured out.
But why is that double standard? Because a lot of black men don't like to see black women with white men. So what is that all?
They'll be like shaking their heads with a white girl around their arm, being like, don't do it, girl. Like, this is ours. So
what do you guys think about that? I mean,
I would encourage my girlfriends, and we do. I mean, at this stage of the game, it's just like, if you can find a good man, find a good man. I don't care if he's purple, quite honestly.
I prefer it.
You prefer a purple man? Yeah. Well, the darker the berry. I get that too. But I do have a preference. I will say that I do.
Have you dated outside your race?
Yes, I have.
And you just haven't liked it?
It's not that I didn't like it. I just didn't. I have a preference.
And anybody else date outside of their race? No, you didn't, Angela, ever?
Have you never been curious? Like, no.
I mean, a lot of times people, I mean, I've dated outside of my race, but I've never dated a white man.
What did you date?
A purple man.
A purple man.
There's only white men.
I've dated Spanish men that were. No, I'm just saying, but when black people talk about dating outside of their race, typically the first thing people think is, oh, you dated a white person. And I just haven't done that.
Well, it's dawning on me that you guys are of a different generation in a way. So, like,
oh, okay.
I'm just saying, that's all I said.
I mean, you make a good point, because your generation is the most multicultural generation this country has ever seen. So your pool, your social circle is, much more diverse.
And dating isn't really what it was before. Back in you guys' day.
I feel like it's been 17 years since I had a date.
Your day.
You should be knowing, especially if you're on a dating scene.
Rolled up in the
But
car.
and opened the door for you, and you knew it was a date.
So what is dating now versus, when we came across in the covered wagon?
Now we don't have any clear definitions on what dating is, any clear definitions on courtship. It's just.
But do you think there's got to be a reason for that? If we don't have clear definitions, it's because somebody or somebodies aren't requiring them or demanding them.
That's right.
Have any of you guys online dated? Tried online? Well, it's been
They didn't have online.
Yeah, they didn't have online dating.
I've never tried it. No.
Have you done it?
I have done it.
But how was the experience?
It was, you know what? It was good and bad. I mean, it definitely helps to weed out this is a terrible person. I didn't even have to put on makeup to go out on this date. So in that respect, you're like, okay, that saved me some time.
Right.
But I've met some very fraudulent people who you got excited about, and then you got there and you're like, you lied about everything. The only thing true is that is you in the picture. I mean, it's pretty awful. Plus, it's not cheap. You invest a lot of money. I mean, initially up front, the service that I use is $120 up front and pay before you eat. I'm like, I could have met this dude at a liquor store for free. I didn't need to put it on my MasterCard. He's not worthy of interest charges, but that's what. Yeah, I mean, it's rough, but I mean, so sometimes it's good to weed. It's a weeding out process. But sometimes you kind of get it. You're like, wow, this seems like a nice human being, and then you get there and you're like, who was writing those emails? It was not you.
All right, you guys. Thanks for joining us today and taking a moment to exhale.
For more information on the show and the co-host, log on to aspire.tv/exhale.
Follow our show on Twitter at ExhaleTV.
Continue the conversation on Facebook /ExhaleTV and let us know what you think about today's topic.